Yo, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy Dan, aka aDrive. I'm bringing you guys a brand new Pokemon Sword and Shield video today. Today we're going to be talking about Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing, two of the brand new features in Pokemon Sword and Shield that are going to drastically affect gameplay, competitive, VGC, and pretty much everything in between. In this video, I'm going to break down the differences between Gigantamaxing and Dynamaxing, as well as my thoughts on the two, and maybe some insight that'll help you along your gameplay experience when Sword and Shield drops in less than a month. If you guys are hyped for Pokemon Sword and Shield, be sure to hit that like button down below, and subscribe if you guys are new, as we are closing in on 500,000 subscribers, so make sure you have those notifications turned on so you do not miss a Pokemon Sword and Shield video. But like I said, in this video, we're going to talk a lot about Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing, which is a pretty interesting topic, and this is going to be kind of the beginning of me kind of highlighting some of the features in the upcoming game, giving my thoughts about them as we close in on the launch date. So, let's talk about it. For those who aren't familiar, I get this question a lot in my live streams, and that's what kind of spurred the inspiration for this video. A lot of people seem to be confused as to the difference between the two of Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing. Now, let me lay out the framework here. First and foremost, these mechanics, which are new to Pokemon Sword and Shield, are a projection. It's not actually the Pokemon that gets bigger. It's supposed to be a projection of the Pokemon getting bigger. And this action can only take place in the wild area, which is the open roaming location in the center of the map, and in stadiums, which is where the gyms and most likely tournaments are going to be taking place. So if you're just out on Route 2, you cannot Dynamax your Pokemon. And I really like this change because this is similar to when you think back to Sun and Moon and the Z moves, they were a bit annoying because you can just bust out a Z move at any time. It's a really powerful attack, it kind of blows back your opponent, and then you're in a situation where it's like, all right, well, that animation wasn't worth sitting through. But in this situation with Dynamax and Gigantamaxing, they can only take place in the stadiums and in the wild area. So again, I think that's a drastic improvement, so you're not just going to be able to get a really strong G-Max Pokemon and just plow through the game. It's only going to be in those situations. And again, your opponent is going to have those too, because in theory, in the stadiums, you're going to battle gym leaders and stuff like that. So let's talk a little bit about the difference. Every single Pokemon in the game, as far as we know, can Dynamax. Dynamaxing is that giant projection of the Pokemon. So you can see here in this screenshot, Grookey and Eldegoss are both much, much bigger, and they have these little clouds above their head, 3 clouds. Now, I'm pretty sure the 3 clouds actually indicates the number of turns for that Dynamaxing Pokemon, because both Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing last for 3 turns. That's it, 3 turns, which I also think is very cool. Like Mega Evolutions, which lasted the whole battle, or unlike rather, this is only 3 turns. So you really have to, from a competitive standpoint, really time your Dynamax and your Gigantamax. And I think that this is going to make competitive play incredibly intriguing. Now, I want you guys to stay open-minded because I understand a lot of people see Dynamaxing and they think it's just stupid because these Pokemon just get bigger. But as someone who is very adept at competitive, played competitive Pokemon for a really long time, I actually think it's going to be sick because you're going to be in situations where you're battling your opponent. Maybe your strategy for your team is to potentially Dynamax or Gigantamax one Mon on your team, but the situation presents itself where you can Dynamax another one and try to go for the game. Or maybe prevent your opponent going for game. And every competitive battle is going to be different because you don't know if your opponent is going to Dynamax their first Pokemon, are they going to Gigantamax something later, are they going to Dynamax something in the middle of the battle. You have no idea, and it just adds a totally different element of surprise that is not just this one-turn nuke like a Z move or this crazy Mega Evolution that's OP. And I really think it could add a lot to competitive, especially since it doesn't include held items. So you can have a Pokemon that can Dynamax or Gigantamax and still hold an item on top of that. And I think that that kind of versatility is going to make for a really, really cool gameplay experience. So anyway, let's talk a little bit about kind of the difference here. Every Pokemon can Dynamax, as I alluded to, and it seems as though these Pokemon that Dynamax simply get bigger, and then their HP multiplies by 1.5. So if they had 100 HP, like 100 total HP, they would end up with 150 HP after Dynamaxing. Again, this Dynamax state only takes place for 3 turns throughout the battle. That includes if you protect, detect, anything like that, you actually will consume a turn. So you only get 3 turns, so it's very important in competitive that you're using those 3 turns wisely. And once those 3 turns end, you revert back to your normal state, which I think is pretty interesting as well. I would assume your HP reverts on a percentage base as well. So if you're at, 90%, don't take any damage after you Gigantamax or whatever, you go back down to 90%, whatever of your total HP is going to be. Now, as of now, it does not seem that there's any stat buffs with these Pokemon. It seems as though it is simply a form change and an HP change. And actually, I'll dive into some of these in more depth here in a moment, but if you look at this Butterfree here, you can see on this image it has 120 HP here, and then once it Gigantamaxes, it goes to 180 HP. So it seems like both Dynamax and Gigantamaxing buffs your HP by 1.5. Now, we don't have any insight yet as to whether these Gigantamax Pokemon are gonna have any differences. And the difference between Dynamax and Gigantamax, as of right now, they both get the HP buff. They both get bigger, but Gigantamax Pokemon change their form. So they're gonna look different. So it's kind of like a Mega Evolution, right? They're gonna look different. Dynamax Pokemon like Grookey and Alchemy here look exactly the same. Now it is possible, I said Alchemy, Eldegoss. It is possible that Eldegoss gets a Gigantamax form too and has a different appearance, but this is Dynamaxing. Again, Gigantamaxing, the big difference here is the form change and their custom move. They have a special move. That is the big two differences right now that we know, is it looks different and it has a special move. We don't know if there's a stat change, ability change, any of that stuff like Mega's had. I'm assuming at this point it is just the move. However, we could find out later that there is stat buffs aside from HP for Gigantamax forms. Maybe the Pokemon get a buff already, I don't know. But definitely some stuff worth noting. And we'll go into some of those special moves here shortly. So, anyway, as we're looking through these Pokemon, we have 8 different Gigantamax Pokemon revealed so far. And as we can see, it can take place for Pokemon that aren't fully evolved. It can be fully evolved Pokemon. It's Pokemon that have had Megas before, new Pokemon, old favorites that didn't have any special treatment. There's pretty a wide array here of different Pokemon that have Gigantamax forms. Now again, just to repeat, Dynamax Pokemon get 1.5 times the HP. But they look exactly the same. They're just bigger, and they have the clouds. 3 turns. Gigantamax Pokemon look different, have 1.5 times HP, 3 turns, the clouds above them, and they have a special move. And that special move is going to be a big impact move. In Butterfree's case, it actually has the move Befuddle, which it should say it somewhere around here. Yeah, the G-Max move Befuddle, which does damage, and it actually scatters scales to either poison, become paralyzed, or fall asleep. So in this case, it did over half damage to Obstagoon, and then it actually put the Sirfetch'd to sleep and the Obstagoon to sleep. So in competitive, this could be really, really strong. When you look at things like this here, you've got the Corviknight. Corviknight's Gigantamax move, as you can see, it's got these little kind of flight things that fly off of it. Its Gigantamax move actually removes any effects like Reflect, Light Screen, Spikes, Electric Terrain, Stealth Rocks, all that stuff. So it's almost like defog in a way, right? It kind of defogs stuff away. When you look at something like Gigantamax Dreadnought, another powerful one. This one is actually going to be a Rock-type move that sets up Stealth Rocks. That could be insanely powerful. That could be really, really good and competitive. A lot of possibilities there. When you look at Charizard, Charizard does this massive fire attack with its wings, and it sets up Wildfire, which means that the Pokemon that's not a fire type takes 4 turns of damage. So lots of damage, lots of potential there for the Gigantamax Pokemon. But the question is, how do you obtain these Gigantamax Pokemon? And it is through max raid battles. Now, we know when you're in the wild area, you can do max raid battles against various Pokemon. And this is how you're going to obtain, one of the ways to obtain hidden ability Pokemon, right? But it says here, there's also a chance that you'll encounter a special Pokemon capable of Gigantamaxing and max raid battles. So what this means is you could say, let's say you take on a Corviknight in a max raid battle, right? You're in the wild area, you see a Corviknight battle. You could battle that Corviknight, and there's a tiny chance that that Corviknight can Gigantamax. But not every Corviknight can Gigantamax, despite the fact, this is where things get confusing, despite the fact that Corviknight has a Gigantamax form, Dreadnought has a Gigantamax form. Not every Corviknight can Gigantamax. It's a special trait of that Pokemon. It's almost like a hidden ability, but separate from the hidden ability, if that makes sense, right? So every Pokemon can Dynamax, but only some can Gigantamax. And even in that subset, only some species of Pokemon can Gigantamax. I hope that makes sense, because I know this has been a confusing piece of information for a lot of people. You could also get hidden abilities here, but again, speaking specifically on the topic of Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing, you could do a max raid battle for a Corviknight, and it may be able to Gigantamax. It's always going to be able to Dynamax. Some Corviknight can Gigantamax as well. Now, let's say you do Arcanine, and Arcanine doesn't have a Gigantamax form. Then it just can only Dynamax. So, hopefully that makes sense. That's like the big piece of the puzzle here. It's a little confusing, but like I said, the difference between Dynamax, Gigantamax, Dynamax is 1.5 times HP, so is Gigantamax. Dynamax is not a form change. It is strictly just a size change. Gigantamax is a form change, and then again, they have that special signature move, Befuddle or Wildfire or whatever it's going to be. Now, Gigantamax Pokemon and Dynamax Pokemon both have kind of special effects with their moves, setting up terrains and stuff, but they'll have that special move. Now, again, still unknown at this point whether Gigantamax Pokemon are going to get a stat buff as well, aside from their HP. We know their HP goes up. We don't know if anything else is going to be adjusted there. So a couple bits of information. Hopefully I explained that pretty in depth. Now, let's take a look here. A couple things here. This is some pretty interesting stuff here. One, it's theorized right now that the models are all different for the Dynamax Pokemon because they spawn in with the cloud already on their head, which I thought was pretty interesting. So that's the argument that there's like a lot of extra models that had to be made, even if they're the same model, gets upscaled and then kind of adjusted. So that's something that I thought was worth noting. Here's some different interesting information. There's a Dynamax level for various Pokemon. So here's Corviknight and then Dynamax Corviknight. It's kind of unclear of how it's going to be denoted that it can Gigantamax, but I'm sure there's going to be some sort of summary somewhere. I was trying to find the screenshot because I thought there was one that said that it can Gigantamax, but I wasn't able to dig that up. And then we're still waiting on the Gigantamax Lapras. This is fan art right here, but this is one of the ones that was talked about and rumored upon in terms of new forms coming out. So I do think that we are going to get the Gigantamax Lapras, and then yesterday we talked about Machamp and Gengar potentially getting formed. So I did my best to try to explain it. I think I was a little all over the map in this video, but hopefully you guys got the gist of it. I think Gigantamaxing is going to be a really cool feature in the game. I love the fact that every Pokemon can Dynamax, only some Pokemon can Gigantamax, and that can turn the tide of a battle. It can really change things around, and it's going to be interesting to see how these Pokemon function with their special moves. One particularly that I'm really excited about is Pikachu, because Pikachu, in theory, should be able to hold its light ball item, which will double its attack and special attack, which might end up making, I'm gonna say might end up making Pikachu one of the most competitively viable Pokemon in the metagame if it has this powerful Gigantamax form that always paralyzes, plus doubles its attack and special attack through Light Ball, and then gets an HP buff so it can actually live a hit, and it's already pretty fast at base 90 speed. It could end up being very, very powerful. So lots of potential there for what's to come with Pikachu and some of these other Gigantamax Pokemon, but this can even paralyze ground types, as we see here with Mudsdale. So very interesting stuff. I'm excited about the feature. I'm curious, what's your opinions on Gigantamaxing and Dynamaxing so far in Pokemon Sword and Shield? Are you excited about the feature, or do you think it's lame and you'd rather have Megas? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.